Hey everyone, in this video I want to show you how to go through and install guest editions for VirtualBox virtual machines. So sometimes you need to install guest editions because that's what gives us the ability to full screen, drag and drop, shared clipboards, shared folders, all that good stuff. We need to install some additional software on the guest operating system to make it easy for our host operating system to access it. So I've already got both of my VMs up and running. The Ubuntu VM is nice because it already comes with some guest editions installed. So if you log into the Ubuntu system, you should be able to go ahead and full screen and enable the shared clipboard and features like that from the menu up here. So shared clipboard, I like to do bidirectional so it goes both ways. Drag and drop, same thing. Shared folders if you're interested in setting those up. And then full screen again is located here underneath the view menu. Now one thing you may notice is when you start up Fedora, that Fedora does not go into full screen. If you try to put it in full screen mode, this is the result you get. It just kind of stays in this tiny box. Okay, so just ignore that. We don't need that. So what I want to do is walk you through how to do this, how to set up the guest editions in a virtual machine. And the process is basically the same for whatever guest it is. There's an additional step that we're going to need to do here in this Linux virtual machine because we're going to need to install some software that's needed in order to set up the guest editions. Alright, so with that said, let's go ahead and get started. If you go back up to the menu bar and click on Devices, you'll see that there's an option down here to insert guest edition CD image. So this, as you can imagine, being a CD image, is an ISO file. That ISO file is going to get mapped to the CD drive for our VM. So let's go ahead and click on that. Okay, so there's some auto run like capabilities here. Unfortunately, we're not ready to run this just yet. Like I said, there's some prerequisite software that we need to install. So just go ahead and click cancel here. Alright, so at that point, let's go ahead and jump into a terminal. And don't worry if some of this is a little bit overwhelming. This is some of the material we're going to be learning throughout the semester, how to install software and how to use the terminal. It's kind of a chicken and egg thing because I want to make sure you have the guest editions so that you can have a good experience while you work on learning this material. Okay, so just bear with me here with this one. It's also a good preview of what we'll be learning. So click on Activities, and we want to go to the search and look for the terminal. We're going to use the terminal a lot this semester, so one thing I like to do is click on Activities again, and in the sidebar tell it to add to my favorites. This is kind of like pinning it in Windows. Okay, so we're right here in the terminal, and let's do sudo dnf. So that's danified yum. Yum is a package manager. DNF is a package manager as well. It's the successor to Yum, and that's what allows us to install packages in Linux. And packages are uh, basically software. It's software that we want to install. It's all of the compiled software we need and any configuration files and documentation that's needed for that. You can sort of think about it as an installer. Okay, so danified yum -y. That -y is just going to say, yeah, go ahead and install this stuff. We want to tell it what to do, so we want it to install. And then we're going to give it a list of packages that we want to install. Okay, so packages exist in repositories, and the distribution Fedora is set up to already have some repositories. So we're going to tell it what packages in those repos that we want for it to go out and get and install on our system. So GCC is one. That's a C compiler. Automake is one. Make. Kernel headers. Kernel-headers. Kernel-devel. And then Perl. So there's a space in between each one of those packages. And these packages are what's needed in order to build the guest editions that we're going to be using. So once you have that, go ahead and press enter. It's going to ask you for your password. Um, Student is part of the administrator group. At least it was when I set up my VM here. So I just need to enter the password for student and then press enter. Okay, so yours may go through and it may do some Yum updates. It's just going to pull down the latest copy of the repo. Mine didn't do it, and I can tell that it didn't because it says that the metadata expiration check was just 10 minutes ago. So mine's already done an update. And it's saying I'm going to go through and figure out what's already installed. So some of these packages are already there and we don't have to worry about them. It's letting me know what it is going to install. And then it's also letting me know what dependencies or what other packages are required to even get these packages installed. Alright, so there's going to be a total of 5 new packages added. And we can see those 5 right here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And moving on down, it would normally ask us at this point, do we wish to continue and install this software? And we would hit yes. But since we did this -y, it's ignoring that. It's letting us just go ahead and install the software without asking. So at this phase, what it does is it goes out and it downloads all of these packages. Packages for Fedora are RPM files, Red Hat Package Manager. So it's going to download those and then it's going to install those. So we'll give this a second to go and we'll come back after it's finished. Alright, so once that installation finishes, let's do one more thing. Let's go out and update and just make sure we have the most updated software for our distribution. When we get that live CD, it's sort of a snapshot of the way packages look at that moment. So we probably have some outdated stuff. Let's just do a sudo dnf update. Press enter, go ahead and enter the password for your user account. And this is just going to go through and see what all can be updated. One of the things that you'll see in this list that's particularly important is the kernel. So we had just installed kernel headers and kernel devel. We want to make sure that we're actually using the kernel that's based on those headers and based on that source code. Okay, so it's asking, is this okay? Are we alright to go ahead and install these and upgrade these? Yes, we are. And any time that you do a kernel update, we're going to have to restart the VM afterwards. So let's pause one more time and we'll come back here in just a second when this is finished. Okay, so now that that's finished, let's go ahead and reboot. So you can reboot by just typing sudo reboot, press enter, do the password again, and we'll be back in a second. Alright, so now that we're back booted up, let's get back into the installation here. So let's go to Activities and then Files. You should see VBox Editions down here. That's that CD image that we mounted earlier. If it's not there, come up here to the top, go to Devices, and click on Insert Guest Edition CD Image, and that should come up. Alright, from there we can just go ahead and click Run Software and Run. We want to enter our password. And the installer is going to go and compile some software for our version of the kernel. Once this is done, we should be able to start using the guest editions. Alright, so once that's done, we shouldn't see any error message here in the output. If you do see an error message, I did have a little bit of issues with this current version of the kernel, 4.12, not working with an older version of VirtualBox and its guest editions. So what I had to do was upgrade VirtualBox. If you go to the About for VirtualBox, you'll see that what version you're running. I'm running what's the latest version right now, which is 5.1.26. Okay, so let's press enter to close that. And let's restart one more time and we should come back in with our guest editions working. Alright, so it looks like this is working correctly now. We can tell because it's already full screen and I'm in full screen mode, so that's working. You may also want to go ahead and enable some of these other features like shared clipboard and shared folders. I want to show you one other thing. One problem that I run into more so with the Ubuntu VM than the Fedora VM. I'm not sure why, but it feels rather sluggish. When I type, there's a good noticeable lag between when the characters actually appear. And I found that if you click on the VM, and it needs to be shut down to do this, so I won't be able to do it with the state that the VM's in right now. But if I go to settings and then system, it's display, I just want to check this enabled 3D acceleration down here. And then once that's checked, you can click OK, and then you should be able to boot back up into Ubuntu or Fedora, whichever one you did that in, and hopefully see a difference. Alright, so that's all I got for today. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.